In 2018, Eric Ebron had a Pro Bowl season that made him a household name. But what happened in his career leading up to that and after that? Eric Ebron committed to UNC as a 3-star prospect and had a stellar career there, finishing his senior season with 973 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Good enough for the Detroit Lions to draft him 10th overall. But his rookie season was very disappointing for the Lions, only catching 1 touchdown and having 248 receiving yards. Statistically, that isn't terrible for a rookie tight end, but for a guy drafted 10th overall who is expected to help revitalize the Lions offense and give Matthew Stafford a new weapon, it's understandable why Lions fans saw this season as underwhelming. But Ebron would improve, being targeted 70 times, catching 47 of them for 537 yards and 5 touchdowns. While this still isn't quite what the Lions were looking for and what their fans expected, it was improvement. And the next season would actually start to satisfy people's expectations, with 711 yards receiving. Now, only catching 1 touchdown, but still, Ebron's usage was up and his production was up. But his next and final season in Detroit would be a regression, with 574 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Then the Lions would release Ebron. But the Indianapolis Colts, in desperate need of a tight end to complement Jack Doyle, would sign Ebron for $13 million over 2 years. And this 2018 season is the one you probably know Ebron for, being targeted 110 times, bringing 66 of them in for 750 yards and 13 touchdowns, and recording career highs in all of those categories. This season earned Ebron a Pro Bowl selection and got him ranked 66th on the NFL's top 100 list in 2019. The only tight ends with more receiving yards than Ebron in 2018 were Jared Cook, Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce, and George Kittle. But no tight end had more receiving touchdowns than Eric Ebron in 2018. If Ebron is able to get 100 or more receiving yards this season, he possibly would have been named to an All-Pro team. At just 25, Ebron had seemingly revitalized his career. If you told people at the time that just 3 seasons later, Ebron would be out of the NFL entirely, they would have called you crazy. But that is exactly what happened. The following year, Ebron declined significantly. His targets basically got cut in half, leaving him with less catches, yards, and touchdowns. He also missed 5 games that year due to an ankle injury. And this was his contract year in Indianapolis. Along with that, Jack Doyle was a Pro Bowler that season. So the Colts saw no need to sign Ebron to another contract when they had Jack Doyle and Mo Alley-Cox coming up. This left Ebron without a team until the Steelers signed him to a 2-year, $12 million contract. Now, his first year in Pittsburgh, Ebron actually had a solid season. 558 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in 15 games. But in 2021, Ebron missed significant time with a hamstring and patella injury, only playing 8 games, and he was not able to break 100 yards receiving on the season. So now that we've gone through Eric Ebron's whole career, I'm sure you're wondering what went wrong. First, let's start off with Detroit. While Ebron did have some good performances, he was not living up to expectations. And honestly, the Lions at that time were very dysfunctional. So it's hard to blame one or the other for why Ebron never lived up to expectations in Detroit. Having coaching drama constantly and mismanagement in the front office isn't exactly the best environment to bring up a young tight end. Now, explaining Ebron's rise and fall in Indianapolis is way easier. Playing for Andrew Luck, a quarterback who had utilized Jack Doyle for years in a West Coast scheme under Nick Sirianni, was a really great spot for Ebron to be in. Getting lots of touches and opportunities to score led to him having his great 2018 season. And along with that, Jack Doyle did miss a few games that year, which upped Ebron's targets even more. Not to say that it's just because of Andrew Luck and the Colts coaching staff that Ebron was good. Ebron had always been talented at football, but this situation just suited him perfectly. So why did he fall off so hard? Well, with Andrew Luck retiring, Ebron getting injured, and Jack Doyle playing his first full season since 2016, Ebron would see his role get reduced, hurting his stats and probably his confidence. And like I mentioned earlier, the Colts saw no need to pay Ebron upwards of $5 million a year when they already had a Pro Bowl tight end in Jack Doyle and another up-and-coming tight end in Mo Alley-Cox. And later, the Colts would draft guys like Kylan Granson and Will Mallory and Drew Ogletree and Jelani Woods at tight end. So why did Ebron never really catch on in Pittsburgh then? Well, Ebron's first year in Pittsburgh was actually decent. Like I said earlier, 558 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, and with the most yards per game since his Pro Bowl season in 2018. But 2021 is where it went all wrong. Ebron only played 8 games, with the rest of his season being lost to injury. But the reason that's a big deal is because this was a contract year, and the Steelers had second-round pick Pat Freiermuth emerge as their first-string tight end, putting up numbers just as good as Ebron did the year before, and Freiermuth was a cheaper option than Ebron. So in the 2022 offseason, Ebron was not brought back by the Steelers, and the past 2 years, Eric Ebron has not been on an NFL roster. And the sad reality is that he is most likely done playing in the NFL. So what happened to Ebron was a series of unfortunate events that involved unstable quarterback play in his final year with Indy, and then injuries finishing off his career. But Eric Ebron will always have that 2018 season where he was a top 5 tight end in the NFL, paired with Andrew Luck and that electric 2018 Colts offense. While Ebron may not have lived up to his draft status, he was still a very good NFL tight end. He just got unlucky by having down years the same time he was due for a new contract. I hope Ebron's doing good wherever he is. I know as a Colts fan, we will always appreciate what he did here in Indy. Anyways, I'm Limitless Bulls. Thank you guys for watching. See you next week.
Never ever will I fold, even if my clothes wrinkle. Rich ain't single, but this kid'll make a whole me. You don't make the roster if that throw go make my toes single.